A few slides on the use of kaolin. I'm sure that you are familiar with this. It's a white clay, is a natural white clay, is a total inert material that is now available also with different commercial formulations, and they are usually macronized formulations. And you spray this kaolin when you are around a peak of temperature. Here it's amazing, this kind of thermal picture showing that you see exactly this part of the canopy that has been sprayed with kaolin is definitely cooler than this other part of the canopy. The principle is very simple. The kaolin being white has a reflective light potential, so it would reflect some of the direct light, and it has a cooling effect on that. Well, this cooling effect can be really pronounced. As you can see here, for instance, I do love this kind of picture. You see, this is a leaf where you do see the macronized kaolin in all this part, and this is basically okay. Whereas the portion of the leaf that was not protected with kaolin, you see that it starts actually yellowing a little bit. The color is lighter, and also when you measure photosynthesis in these two different spots, you see that in the one protected with kaolin, you still have a positive photosynthesis, whereas in the other one, you just have respiration. And you see that the temperature of the leaf goes up to 47, whereas on kaolin, it stays at 42.8. We have done a lot of work on kaolin. This is a bit complicated at this time of the day, probably, because it's a graph that shows the so-called FV-FM ratio. Here we are in the realm of the fluorescence of chlorophyll. However, this is just to tell you that when this ratio goes below about 0.6, well, that means that the leaf is undergoing what it's called a process of photoinhibition. In other words, the leaf is not able to dissipate all the energy that it receives, and at that point, it starts a sort of yellowing and then a degradation process. And among these four treatments, you would notice that only this treatment, that is water stress control, meaning non-sprayed with kaolin, was the only one actually getting to limiting values for this parameter. What does this mean? Very simple. The kaolin has two very positive effects. First, it has a cooling effect. But most of the effect can be seen actually later on in the season, because if you spray with kaolin, we have seen that the leaf can survive, at least survive, and then when you give water later, or maybe you get some rain, you can recover the leaf function. This is very well demonstrated in this table that I don't really have time to discuss in details, but this is quite long. But anyway, just let me draw your attention on this column here. These are the four treatments. This one is with kaolin, well watered, kaolin, water stressed, no kaolin, well watered, no kaolin, water stress. This is the leaf area that was actually measured at the end of the season in the basal nodes. So basically the leaf area around the clusters. You see that the only treatment that had very low leaf area is the one water stress with no kaolin. Well, that means that there was a big leaf drop due to the photoinhibition process. And that is, of course, not a good thing in terms of cluster exposure and in terms of recovery if a rewatering is then arriving. I didn't keep track of the time, but I think I still have a couple of minutes to conclude, or 3 minutes. The final point is just a couple of slides on this world of the high technology that is actually entering the viticulture field.